evening, dear televiewers of DMR TV. You are all welcome to this edition of Marriage in God's Plan, a program geared to train the general public on the formation of marriage, long-lasting marriage, happy marriages. And we have the marriage preparation guide, which is the document that we are treating here with the public on how to prepare ourselves for the sacrament of holy matrimony. In the previous editions, we have treated the fall, which is the original sin, in relation to preparation for holy matrimony. Today we shall be looking at the sacrament of marriage. The sacrament of marriage, or marriage as a sacrament, which is chapter 4, part 2 of this precious document that is put forward to us by the Provincial Episcopal Commission for the Family and Youth Apostolate for the formation of couples who are aspiring for the sacrament of holy matrimony. And to deal with that task, I have with me an exemplary couple, Mr. Cyprian Fusu and Mrs. Aurelia Fusu, all of them coming from St. Charles Luanga Parish, Moliko, and for presentation, my humble self, Mary Ann Chinmolo. You are all welcome, Mr. Cyprian and Madame Aurelia.
Thank you.
Okay, today we are here on set to talk about marriage as a sacrament. So may I start with you, Madame, on my left, to ask. Last week we saw the fall. What was the picture of marriage in the Old Testament before that fall?
Okay, thank you, Madam. When we talk about the Old Testament, we are actually talking about the first section of the Bible, in which we have the creation, our forefathers, Adam and Eve. God started with them, created them in the image and likeness of God, and gave them everything that they could ever dream and hope for. But when they disobeyed God, they actually harmed God, and God became very angry and drove them out of the Garden of Eden. That's when we had the fall. So when we talk about the picture of marriage in the Old Testament, we are actually looking at the disorder that characterized marriage at that time.
Yes.
There was a lot of polygamy. God created Adam and Eve. That was a couple. But in the Old Testament, most of our patriarchs, they did not just have one wife. We had, you have a man, he will have his wife, but he will go ahead to have children with his servants. We have the picture of Abraham, our father in faith. We know that he had challenges with having children, but we saw how Sarah encouraged him to have a son with her servant Hagar. We also have Jacob. Jacob got married to two sisters, Rachel and Leah. Mm-hmm. That's polygamy. But he did not just end there. He went ahead to have children with their servants. We have King Solomon, who had 700 wives, 300 concubines. We have the brother of Jacob. He started with 2 wives, Judith and Basemath, and went ahead to have other wives. So the picture of marriage was really a disorder. Apart from polygamy, we also had rape cases. The daughter of Jacob, Dinah, was raped in the Old Testament. We have incest. We remember when Lot was saved during the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. The family of Lot was safe. But when Lot was going with the daughters and the wife looked behind and became a pillar of salt. So Lot succeeded only with the two daughters. And when they ran away and lived in a cave, the daughters became afraid that they were going to die without having children. So they committed incest. They gave their father some wine. He drank, became drunk, and both daughters, the eldest slept with the father the first night, and afterwards encouraged the sister to do same. And because of the incest they committed, they gave rise to the Ammonites and the Moabites. All that is found in the Testament, in the Old Testament. So the picture of marriage in the Old Testament is characterized by a lot of disorder. We even have homosexuality in
Really?
Sodom and Gomorrah. Yes, homosexuality. That's one of the reasons why God decided to destroy the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. So this whole idea of homosexuality that we are condemning did not start today. God condemns it in the Old Testament.
Thank you, Madam, for that beautiful explanation.
You're welcome.
And I begin to understand that this period of time, the Old Testament, was actually a period of disorder, and everything was done against God's plan. You actually really named them: polygamous situations, concubinage situations, rape cases, and incest. And I'm sure it's still tied down with what we said last week about the sin of concupiscence, which is the inclination to sin that is caused by Adam and Eve. A desire or a passion for sin, or a situation where people are tilted to sin. I think this your explanation of this Old Testament fits with that sin of concupiscence. Mr. CY, let me call you by that. My senior in school. Please, do you have something to add to what Madam has explained?
Yeah, I want to say that in the midst of that sexual disorder, there was no developed notion of consecrated virginity in the Old Testament.
For sure, for sure.
So there was a need for a redeemer, for redemption to come, so that some peace and some control of the way of the old can be done.
Yes. When you say consecrated virginity, what do you really mean?
When I say consecrated virginity, I mean that there are some sacraments which are in place that guides us as Christians, so that not everybody is bound to get married. There are other sacraments which the church has given us.
Yes.
The sacrament of holy orders.
Holy order.
The sacrament of marriage. Then amongst these sacraments, you can find that aspect of consecrated virginity for those who don't want to get into the sacrament of marriage,
where people preserve themselves for Christ.
Yes.
They are at the service of Christ. So they dissociate themselves from everything that is happening in the outer world.
Yes.
And there is some other thing that also came from it, this aspect of the celibate state of priests. Yes, that was not found in the Old Testament. Yes, because it's still going towards the consecrated virginity. So we see that things like that, which are holy institutions like that, were not found in the Old Testament. So what then? How did Jesus restore this institution, the sacramentality of marriage, by his coming? How did it happen?
Yeah, madam, thank you. You see, the fall of Adam and Eve damaged marriage.
Yes.
So the original sacramentality of marriage was damaged by this fall. And how do we repair it? There's the new visibility of God in Jesus Christ, which comes to continue the visibility of the church over the years. There's also that question that one can ask. But did God give up his original plan about marriage? No, he did not. Because God loves to draw his people closer to him through marriage and other sacraments of the church. And Jesus came to restore marriage. You can even take the example of the marriage feast at Cana, where he performed the miracle. And this miracle showed that marriage is a very sacred sacrament in the church. In as much as the other ones are also sacred, the marriage is a very sacred sacrament. And we should not abuse that sacrament by the disorder in which it was in the Old Testament.
So history was not erased. He came and restored something, but the history which we have seen now in the Old Testament still remains. But he brought in something to restore the disorder that was going on. And it is this new way of marriage as a sacrament, looking at marriage from the view of the church. Just put it again in another way. How can an ordinary man understand this, looking at marriage as a sacrament?
Yeah, looking at marriage as a sacrament, as I had earlier said, it's God-given. God has inspired our priests and all other religious leaders who believe in God, believe in Christ as the head of the church, and believe in the instruments or in the instructions of Christ that Christ gave. And it is very difficult, even for those who are in that matrimonial sacrament, those who are married, husbands and wives. It is difficult, so it is a daily activity. You must do it daily in order to see how you can get into those sacraments and make it the way Jesus Christ treats the church.
So he came and instituted the church, and the church is now teaching us how to embrace into holy matrimony. It is not like he came with a particular rule and put in place, but it is our involvement in church and our daily understanding of the church that helps us to live the holy lives and embrace the holy matrimony. So I think that that was very sound. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam, let me come back to you. What is the state of marriage after Jesus came to redeem? What is the state of marriage? Has something changed from when he came and restored and repaired?
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Marriage now, Christian marriage after Christ, has now become a sacrament. We know that we have many sacraments in the Catholic Church, but the marriage is one of our most important sacraments. And this sacrament has rules and regulations that guide marriage couples. Everything that we do as a couple in matrimony is surrounded around Christ, who is the head of the church. So that's what makes marriage different from what it used to be before.
Yes, and I see Christ by his example. He came and lived a chaste and celibate life by his example. He taught, by his teachings that we are living in church, you can see that we are told or we are made to understand there are things in church that helps us, equip us to go out of these lustful desires that we saw that caused the fall. Yes, the church teaches us to go out of those these marriage regimes that you listed at the beginning, polygamous. The church is now telling us that it is not a unique, or it's not an exemplary marriage institution. It is something that we can stay away from. The church is helping us from our sacraments to regulate our lustful desires.
Yeah.
I think those are some of the things now.
If I may even add, Blessed
Yes.
John Paul II sees marriage as a primordial sacrament.
Yes.
That the unity of two into one flesh. Yes, and that's how he saw it. And it goes back to see it as it's grounded in the creation when God was creating the world. He grounded it. God used the 6 days. On the 7th day he rested. But before he rested, he saw that it was important for man and woman to be together.
Okay. And so it was. So we are going by saying that the Christ came. He did not wipe the history that was existing. We still see these incidences of rape, incest, polygamous, and concubinage unions that are existing. Yes. Is it that the church is talking much like this and the society is not listening, or the church have not talked enough?
The church is doing its own role, yes, in trying to impart into Christians and other people the importance of the sacraments, particularly we in the Catholic Church, the importance of the sacraments. If we follow those sacraments, be it the sacrament of matrimony or any other sacrament, it guides us through the way that Christ wanted us to, or Christ wants us to follow in life.
Are there some other things that people can use to help themselves out? Because we are saying that Christ came to restore and repair the bad things that were happening. And it looks like, if by my own imagination, I think that we have gone back to that Old Testament way, because this issue, even though it came out that it happened in the Old Testament, homosexuality, rape, we are talking every day about these things. Is it that the men and the women are not understanding? Is there something that we can do as formators, as animators, to help the population, to help people out there to come out of this ill? We are just lamenting here, yes, aloud, because these are the things that are disturbing and ruining the marriage institution. You find that in a home, it is common nowadays for a couple to be like you people are, and then in the house you see, you see rumors in the quarter, because the house help have ran out to go and say that the father of the house wants to have this intimate relationship with her and things. You find some kind of, in the quarters, I don't know whether it is prominent where you people are, but where I live, I find things like that. So I begin to wonder, and every day we all dress up and go to church. We dress up and go to church. Is it that everybody or all the marriages have been founded on an error? That men no longer admire their wives in their houses, women no longer admire their husbands. Somebody must do something outside. For how can we help them out in this session?
Thank you, madam. Thank you. The society has really become very, very complex. I think we have to continue talking. We know that for a long time, the whole idea of sex was very taboo in our society. But thank God today, there's a lot of education on sex, on the radio, on television, in the newspapers, and parents themselves have to spend a lot of time discussing with their children on this topic.
Sure.
I think talking about sex and all what we have seen in the Old Testament is going to go a long way to reduce some of these problems. I cannot talk about eradicating them completely. Then I think praying with the children, praying together as a family with our children, it's also going to help them. And let children also learn to speak out. If children speak out, and even the wives, if they also speak out, it's going to go a long way to help us. Because if you have a relation, a husband who abuses, house helps, and even your children, and you cover these things as family secrets, the man will continue doing these things. So let us learn how to speak out, and if we have these difficulties, we can even seek for extra help from hospitals and other specialists who can help people who have such challenges. So I think that the church is doing its best. We couples should also do our best, and even in our meetings, in our neighborhoods, and so on. Our society is that in which we have so many meetings, and during meetings we talk about social issues. So we should talk about these things. It's going to go a long way to help reduce some of these incidences. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. C. Any other thing to add there?
No, nothing to add now.
Okay. I think that Madam has beautifully put us on the rail, and that is just what we are supposed to do. We are here to enlighten the public. I think when we talk, it is always good at times to speak with statistics. I work in the court, and when you go, there was an article that was published not long ago. I don't know from which court that article came out from, and we saw that the number of divorce cases were just so many enlisted for a month, more than hundreds. So we begin to wonder, what is happening to the marriage institution that couples cannot stay? Not long after they celebrate or solemnize their marriages, just very immediately they start seeing or saying that they cannot more live together. It is really a problem. And if we do not embrace the church and its teachings, then we are just toiling in vain. I feel so passionate about this topic of marriage, because when I look at the way people are suffering, I don't understand what we really want. Because sometimes you yourself, you destroy your marriage by the way you do everything, knowing that you want to destroy it. Then I begin to ask, what was the reason of you
getting into
contracting that marriage? You understand? And have you realized that many at times when these couples are coming to get married, they are always in a haste.
Mm-hmm.
They are always in a haste. These lessons that we are doing here are lessons that are supposed to be taken for 3 months. A session is just one class in a week. And you have 1 full week to diagnose, to digest what you have learned, and decide for yourself whether truly you will put it in practice. And then you ask yourself questions, because during those classes, things are you are like putting the two of you putting yourselves in a mirror and looking at how it will be. You start accepting your partner for who he or she is. Yes. And you start taking those decisions, and it is those decisions that guide you for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't understand why people get to hurry with this decision. And when they are hurrying, they will tell you all lofty things. No, we are in love. No, all is going on well. Mm-hmm. No, I love my husband. Mm-hmm. No, I love my wife. You see. But within just a short while, you start saying that, just to tell you that marriage is not that ceremony. It is what you live after that ceremony. It is what you live. And it is a very difficult institution because you get your certificate before you start learning.
Yeah.
You get your certificate before you start learning.
The learning process.
So I think that during this first session, we have spoken a lot, and we can take a musical break so that we come back in the second session to continue with other answers or other things that are necessary for us to say on this topic, marriage as a sacrament. Musical interlude.
Like an angel in the morning, shooting star across the night.
Thank you very much. You are all welcome to this second phase of the program. The sacrament of marriage is a lasting commitment of a man and a woman to a lifelong partnership established for the good of each of them and the procreation of their children. This marriage as a sacrament that we are talking about is different from all other sacraments because all other sacraments are conferred by the priest or the bishop to the receiver. But this sacrament is unique because it is the parties themselves that confer the sacrament on themselves. Can we throw light on that, Mr. CY?
Jesus and his church, in which we all belong, actually talks more about the sacraments of marriage amongst the other. I always quote amongst the other sacraments because there are many other sacraments. And then, if I may say, the original rule, sum, and beauty of marriage is God through the passion, the death, and the resurrection, which we now have, and it helps us to restore our marriages. So Jesus invokes the original state of marriage, which was restored by his coming into this earth as a child, and then grew up as our Savior.
Okay, thank you. What was Jesus' test on the marriage by the Pharisees, Madam?
Okay, thank you, Madam. We see this clearly in the book of Matthew. In Matthew 19, verse 3 to 6, the Pharisees come up powerfully and they ask Jesus this question: is it against the law for a man to divorce his wife on any pretext whatsoever? And Jesus, even knowing what they have to ask before they ask him, Jesus tells them that God created man, male and female, and said a man must leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and the two shall become one body. And he goes ahead to say that what God has put together, let no man put asunder. No man should divide what God has put together. So that was the test that the Pharisees came up with to Christ.
Okay. Mr. CY,
Yes.
do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, but the question they ask is that then why did Moses command a writ of dismissal in the case of divorce? Yes, because of the hardness of your hearts. That's what Jesus said in Matthew 19, verse 7 to 9. It was not like this from the beginning. So Jesus made them to understand that laws are put at times to guide people the way they act. And the sacrament is, we will not call it a law, but it's an institution by the church that helps us, guide us the way we treat our Christian marriages.
Okay, thank you. And Madam, let me come back to you.
Yeah.
Were the Pharisees satisfied with the answer?
No, they weren't. The Pharisees were not at all satisfied. We know how persistent the Pharisees were, and they were looking for any means to pin Jesus down. You know, as Christ said, he did not come to cancel what was found in the Old Testament. He actually came to fulfill what started in the Old Testament. So the Pharisees were not satisfied with the answer. So they went ahead to ask why Moses commanded that a written note should be given in case of divorce. So Jesus said it was because of the hardness of their hearts. That was not God's plan from the beginning. So we see that when God created this world, he actually had a plan. When he created Adam and Eve, he had a plan for marriage at the beginning of creation, and he wanted marriage to be forever until God separates the couple. That's why when two people come to get married, when they are rehearsing or repeating their vows, we always hear them saying, "Till death do us part." So God's plan was not that when marriage becomes challenging, you can ask for divorce or you go and get another partner, because the challenges that you have in one marriage will not be very different from another marriage. We just have to be patient, tolerant, and forgive each other. In so doing, marriage is going to be the long union that God created it to be, until God himself decides to separate the couple. Thank you.
Okay, that's very, very sound. Please, I like this quotation of Matthew 19 verse 3 to 6, where he said, "Have you not read that the Creator from the beginning made them male and female, and that he said, this is why a man must leave father and mother and cling to his wife, and the two become one body. They are no longer two, therefore, but one body. So then, what God has united, man must not divide." Yes. What do we have to say about that? That verse.
Can I say something,
Yes.
madam? What man has united, what God has united, man should not divide. I think that that line is very touching. Most of the problems that we have in marriage are as a result of our neighbors, our in-laws, brothers and sisters, and when you put all that together, it's man trying to divide what God has put together. So I think that in marriage, what we should do is to put our problems before God. When we have challenges in marriage, we should put them before God, and we should not divide what God has put together. So when we have problems in our union as a result of human beings, we should kneel down and present them to God. God will put us together, because he will be the one to bring us a solution to the challenges that we have. Thank you.
Yes. And the other first aspect of it is the aspect of living and cleaving. A man leaves the father and the mother and cleave. The two of them come together and they cleave and they become one. That is so strong for me.
It is.
That is so strong. How do two people live and become one? How can we put it practically?
I think that you leave your parents and become one. You don't forget about your parents entirely. Of course, they are living. You will always be with them physically. But becoming one, you now have a family of your own made up of you and your partner. And the two of you think as one. You do your things as one. And when you have any challenges, you sit together and try to reason them as one. When you forget about talking about yourself, but you talk about
the two of you,
your family, one. Yes. And especially the women, and nowadays the men, you also have men too who rush to their parents every now and then. So instead of rushing to your parents every now and then, you communicate with your partner. So that you people can become one and solve your problems as one. You want to have any project, you discuss it as one. Not that you will be informed that, oh, I've just bought a car or I've just bought a plot. So you try to discuss it so that you can come up with one idea. That's how I look at the oneness.
Yes, Mr. CY.
Yeah, if I have something to add, I just want to say that when two people come from different backgrounds and they become one, they come with their strengths and weaknesses. So it is God's doing that decided to bring the two of them together, and so they should be under one thinking cap. That inside that one thinking cap, they should also know that the other people have some weaknesses. One of the spouses can try to bring up and see the weak part of that other spouse and see how they can balance it. And all of this balancing is through prayers, constant prayers, and doing your things together as one. When you do that together as one, that this aspect of many cases of divorces, as you quoted, will be reduced.
Yes. And it is that oneness which Christ is emphasizing here, is telling us, the public, that we are third parties to this union. We do not have to over-interfere or to bring opinions into the midst of the people that have become one. Yes. And is it really practical? Is it really practical? Or we just come before God and we lie? Then we'll go now after you begin to hear that somebody have bought a plot in his or her name. This oneness, how is it put practically? If the two people, they want to buy a plot, are they operating the two bank accounts? The two people are working like the two of you. How is this oneness practical? Are you having your account, madam having, or which one is the model? When you are buying land, you people join, you take money from your account to come and join and buy. How do you constitute the documents? You constitute it in whose name? The father's name, or how? Is somebody supposed to surrender something? How is it, this oneness?
Yeah, madam, it is practical, though it has a lot of challenges attached to it. It is really not advisable for two people to have one account, because the day everything goes down, the family is doomed. So we have separate bank accounts, but we think alike. If one of us has an idea, the person is going to put the idea on the table. The person is going to bring the idea forward, and we discuss and bring the funds together. The man is the head of the family, so definitely if we buy a plot, it is going to be in his name. One thing that you have to know, in marriage there should be a lot of trust. If you don't trust each other, marriage cannot actually work. So we have the trust. We pray together, bring the funds together, and see what we can do about getting something in the name of the family. Okay. So that is how it works. You must have to surrender. One person must have to surrender. And if the man is the head of the family, so the project carries his name. You trust him. Because
nowadays
trust,
I'm only hearing women propagating that no, when you buy something inside marriage institution, your name must be there, because you don't know. And truly, women are talking like that because at the end of the day, when they come to the court of law to look at all these things, they always see that the woman is always disadvantaged. Yes, the woman is always disadvantaged. And you also take note that in this trust that you are talking about, women are always the ones that trust a lot, because they are the ones that are giving up something. Yes. So I don't know how it should be put, but it's good that there should be dialogue. The two people should be talking. Because when they are talking, like now, I've gotten something from you. You have two separate accounts because you know that something can happen.
Yeah.
Yes, this one can be broke and then this one can come up. But you know, the model thing that they are always telling us is that the two people should have joint account. Yes. Is that, or were you people not told that? Because even in the civil marriage, yes, they are telling you that joint account, and the issue of that joint account is very important because there is always a weaker party who probably is not working or we need help from the other one, and then when they put in long in the marriage, and if they were not in a joint account, then the person has just lose everything. So we are not talking here about civil marriage, we are talking about holy matrimony. But I think that finance, agreeing on finances and the properties of the marriage will also help us to live the sacramental life of that marriage. So I think that ideas are good to be put forward by the parties, so that they will understand every situation is not always the same. A joint account can be good for some people, but for some people, like you people have decided your own, this other arrangement is best for you people.
And there's always constant dialogue amongst us before a project is taken up.
Yes.
If we want to buy a piece of land, we talk together, we look at the place, then we say, okay, it will cost us this amount of money. And then we pull our resources together. Where we live presently, that's what we did.
Okay.
Yeah, we went, saw the piece of land. It's good for the family. We put our resources together
and
we bought the land.
And you bought it. That was good. That is very, very good and very teaching. I think that our viewers are listening and they are understanding us and taking the good points. The number on the screen is always there for us to make our contributions. We are here to tell what we have and also to receive what you people have to flesh this discussion with, for it to be rich. So we are awaiting your contributions through the number on the screen as we continue with this discussion. So Mr. CY, let me come to you. What is the mystery of Christian marriage, and how is it rooted in the mystery of Christ and his church?
The mystery of Christian marriage surrounds the husband and the wife. Those are the principal persons under the mystery of Christian marriage. And it is rooted in the role that Christ has in his church. When Christ came and when he was living, he handed the mantle of the church to St. Peter.
Yes, you are Peter, and
the
on
Pope
this
represents St. Peter. Yes, and imparts down the mystery of Christ and his church. So the role of the husband and the wife are those are the roles. If they perform those roles well, it keeps the marriage intact. If the husband is saying his own thing and the wife is saying her own thing, the marriage will never stand. So they come together as a bond. Christ is the head of the church, the husband is the head of the family. But it doesn't mean that the husband should command and control. It's mutual understanding between the husband and the wife that brings the marriage, matrimony, or the marriage this thing together. Because marriage is a spiritual picture and the testimony of Christ's relationship to the church.
Yes. So this mystery is founded in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 21 to 33. That says that husbands should love their wives just like Christ loved the church and sacrificed himself for her to make her holy. Yes. Husbands should love their wives just like Christ loves the church and sacrifice himself for her so that she should remain holy. Which means that for us to be holy, each other has a role. You understand that your partner has a role in your life. The woman's own is just very simple. Submit to your husband. Respect your husband.
And the husband should always love the wife. I look at it also from the teachings of Christ and the route Christ took. Christ came as a baby, but at the age of 33, he went through passion, death, and resurrection. And this one has restored our marriages. Because in the marriage setup, there are always hurdles. But if you go through those hurdles or challenges and you believe in Christ and his church, you'll be able to sustain that marriage till when God will say, okay, come, my humble servant.
That is it. Madam, do you have something to add there?
Yes, I have.
How women are supposed to submit. How are we supposed to submit to our husbands?
Yes, it's not in every argument that you must win. There are many times that you are in a discussion and you may not be very comfortable with the side your husband has taken, but because you know that he is the head of the family and you want things to go on well, you move on with him, you submit. So by so doing, at least you will not hear those constant voices being raised, because there are some children who always complain that in our house, oh, there is always quarreling. My father and my mother, they are always quarreling. Tomorrow, I don't think that I will get married. So the things that you do at home, the impact on your children and on the decisions that they will take in future. So if you respect your husband and you trust in him, you let go. But we are not saying that it is in everything that you will let go. But you have to show him the respect so that he should know that he is the head of the family and he can at times take decisions for all the family. So I think that being respectful is being submissive and at times letting go, even if you do not believe in what you are letting go. At times you just let go for the sake of the husband who is the head of the family.
Okay, thank you. That's beautiful. I think that being submissive, let's look at this. When we were growing up, we were told that when couples are in an occasion or in a public and your husband has spoken, is it still necessary for you to still talk? I just want us to look at it. Okay, like on your wedding day, your husband, they say the two of you should give a word. Your husband has spoken. Then now you still come up to speak.
I don't think it's necessary. He has spoken for the family. So you don't need to talk. But we know these days there are some of those MCs that can be very tempting. But if they ask you to say something, because of respect and the fact that he represents both of you, you can just say that everything has been said by my husband. So,
and there are situations that occur where the husband must not necessarily talk. When they give him the mic or when they say, okay, say something on behalf of the family. You can as well just say, okay, yes, my wife, I'll give my wife the pleasure to talk on behalf of the family.
Okay. But I just think that they say the man is the head. You make your man your king. You make your husband the king of your home. It is you that make him the king. If he has spoken, what else do you have to say? You understand? What else do we have to say? For me, that's another way of submission, of submitting ourselves. And if there is a public, something in public, and he has made an input, why do I have to counteract it? Whether that input is wrong or right. You understand? Yes, you just stand by him. I think those are the values that they taught us, which we, because of this education and this women emancipation that is coming up, we are going out of it. There are certain things that I think that our dialogue should help us at the background, so that in public our leaders, who is the husband, should well present themselves. I think that is the way we should do it. And in front of our children, it is us to teach them what is the best way of living a marriage life. When you always feel that you should say something or do something in front of your husband, I think it will not be presenting to the children that you are submitting. There is no fight in it. God has already spelled out the rules for each and every one, and it is there in the Bible. Embrace your own. Yes, and it is from this verse that I discovered that a woman does not even need to love. A man just need to come and marry you, and he's doing just some nice thing, doing the nice things like a husband, and then you just discover that you are loving the man like hell. Because you see, from this text, the commandment to love is given to the man. You understand?
Yes,
that? Yes.
You must love your wife.
Yes, if you look at
as
it,
Christ loves the church.
As Christ loves the church. So let us desist from doing the things that will actually really destroy our marriages. And the way God has put it here, that's how He has created the men. He has made them to have that ego. When you start fighting their ego, you will never succeed. I think we should learn to. And men, it is good to really show the love. Christ have said that you should show the demonstrative love to your wives. Yes, show it. It is a public thing. It's not something that is inside the room, that only the two of you. Show it. Make her to have her self-confidence in public. That is what women need. So I think that we should take the comments of two viewers. Our couple director, Madam Tekla, is commending us from Limbe. She says that we are doing a good job. Thank you, Mommy, for encouraging us. And we have one comment here from another viewer who says that any married woman who keeps a separate account cannot claim to be submissive to the husband. You see? Thank you. We have heard, and the viewers have heard. It is always good. The model way that we're being taught, or we have been taught, is that couples should be in a monogamous marriage with a joint bank account. So we have gotten that. I think we should be taking our last word. Mr. CY, what do you have to tell your last word to the public for what we have treated today?
Yeah, we talked today about the sacraments of marriage. It's a holy sacrament where a husband and a wife come from two different backgrounds and they become one. And we have talked about husbands loving your wife. Husband love your wife, wife submit to your husband. If these two are put together, they will not have those cases of divorces on a daily basis.
Thank you very much. Madam, last word?
Yes, I have dwelt mostly on Christ coming to restore the sacramentality of marriage. In the Old Testament, we actually had a lot of disorder as far as marriage is concerned. And even though Christ restored this sacramentality in the New Testament, we realize that we are still falling back and going to those aspects that brought disorder in the Old Testament.
Thank you very much. We will be concluding today by giving these 5 principles for couples. In a good marriage institution, there should be honesty, there should be honor, humility, hope, and happiness. We call that the 5 H. Thank you very much. We have come to the close of this program. I am thankful to Kindness at the Technical Board, to our General Supervisor, Madam Joyce Mbong. We give credit to the proprietor of DMR TV, His Lordship Bishop Michael Bibi. For presentation, I am Mary Ann, your humble presenter, Mary Ann Chinmolo. Thank you. See you in the next session.